True peace, true peace, true peace. Islam, Islam, Islam. Shalom, shalom. Happy holy day, peacemakers and Muslims all across the world. Welcome to Branch Temple number 24 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are a global branch temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, where we teach our people their nationality and their divine creed that they may learn to love instead of hate. Come link yourself with the family of nations here every Friday. Join us on Telegram. For those that are shifting over from Clubhouse, we are blessed to have you. Trying to get as many more as we can to come. Us here on Telegram for Holy Days Temple service and our meeting. But welcome. We're teaching our people to open their meetings and guide their meetings according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And to learn to love instead of hate. So with that, you can join us here every Friday for Holy Day Temple service. We are here live on Telegram, and after we're done, we post our recordings on YouTube for our YouTube family to listen in. So we want to get our service done today and end promptly at our respective time, so that way our family could tune in, because once we done here, I'll make sure we get the recordings uploaded to YouTube. With that, true peace, happy holy day, noble CP, Brother Jonathan, true peace. Y'all know how to do, share the room. First thing first, I want to give honor to the Creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala, El Kalum, El Elo, Elohi, Elohim, by whatever name you want to make reference to the divine creator, as long as it's not one of the derogatory forms of the reference to the divine creator, whatever floats your boat. But y'all can be anywhere in the world, y'all can be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, Grand Sheik, Dr. Lawiy, and I hope y'all are enjoying y'all Friday. Happy holy day. And y'all will do, we're gonna open up with a divine supplication, and we're gonna get it started this week. So last week we left off on our banking series, and I think you right at the close, well, we can close it out. Like I said, we can close out the banking series with reading from Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson's Powernomics. We're not gonna read the entire book. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna extend the banking series out longer than it has to be. But most definitely, we will be getting into some detailed portions of what Claude Anderson has drafted in his book, has published in his book, and touch on some key heavy points there. But nonetheless, let us jump right into our divine supplication and get our parliamentary going. Open the parliamentary meeting and service going. As you know, we begin our prayers and thinking by using the all, the source. O heavenly ones, the Most High, who is sustainer of all the worlds, we do accept the duty you have laid on us to clean up the field made by the West and its non-Semitic fools. O my sustainer, we beseech you to keep your hand over us, to control the strings of the courses of our lives. And if we do wrong, please show our divine blessings and forgiveness on us. You are the only one that can raise us true followers of the news bearers. And in thy name, we carry on. All right, y'all, so let's jump right into our daily affirmations. These are affirmations that you should be going over with your family, your friends, if your friends are close with you, your peers, in your circle, your inner circle. These are daily affirmations that you could recite with family and your close inner circle. And these affirmations are called what we accept as fact. The daily affirmation of loyalty of the children of the Elohim. And as they state, we accept as fact the eternal laws of nature as revealed through science, past events, logic, and common sense, revealed as right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We accept as fact the highest laws of nature is the cooperation and harmony of all living things. We accept as fact our way of life as a means to the best end. We accept as fact that loyalty is the greatest of all honors and treason is the worst of all crimes. We accept as fact that what is good for the Holy Tabernacle is the highest virtue, and what is bad for the Holy Tabernacle is the ultimate evil. We accept as fact that the Holy Tabernacle is the finest and noblest organization for all humanity created by circumstances, and the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek is the noblest of fraternities on and above this planet. We accept that creativity, love, and cooperation are the essence of success. We accept that truth and facts are always and has always been the originator and creator of all success. We accept the fact that all worthwhile cultures and civilizations came about from the ancient Sumerians and Canaanite Egyptians and the Anunnaki, or Elohims from the heavens, without which there would be none. We accept this fact that for the Holy Tabernacle to survive, expand, and advance, we need, first of all, a revolution of values and thoughts, which must start within each person by being truthful with themselves and about themselves. Therefore, we completely and categorically reject all myths, fictions, religions, and lies that have not been proven. That would include your heavens, your hell, your hellfire and brimstones, your horny pitchfork devils, your winged angels, and your old man God character sitting on the throne up there somewhere. We deal strictly with facts. If you can't prove it, we don't want to hear it. That doesn't mean we won't listen to you. Just don't expect us to accept your beliefs by virtue of a title such as Reverend, Pastor, Deacon, Imam, Sheik, Rabbi, Minister, Theologian, etc. That's your sensationalism, and we deal with just the facts. We accept this fact that the only true revolution is a war of good against evil, right against wrong, fairness against unfairness, loyalty against disloyalty, sincerity against insincerity, honesty against honesty. And this war is within each among the agreeable and disagreeable Elohims that make up your willpower. We accept the fact that the unity of our community and its success will only happen with cooperation. We're all involved. We accept the fact of total unification of all humanity on the basis of truth. That is, accepting people and races for what they are, respecting their culture, their languages, and their beliefs, and expect this. We accept the fact that the human race's biological and cultural heritage is now under attack by our own morals, our self-righteousness, our desire to control industry. And these things attack the very existence of humanity. We accept this fact that males as well as females are equal in all things and should be dealt with as partners in all matters. We accept this fact that no one race of people is better than the other. In fact, no one wins the race and racism. We accept this fact that communication between different people is the cure to the ignorance that breeds disease, hate. We accept this fact that a good and well-rounded education could prevent most of the ignorance that plagues the world. We accept this fact that the all is just that, the all. You can't take from the all, you can't add to the all. We are all within the all one. That is our concept of what you call a deity. To the fact of these facts, children of the Elohim forever pledge our honor, our lives, and our spiritual zeal. All right, y'all. So with that, y'all know what comes next. All rise, facing the east, feet at a 45-degree angle, 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up. We're going to jump right into our prayer, a reciting of the divine constitution and bylaws. You can say it with me if you like. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. All right, so let's get into these divine constitutions and bylaws. We're going to continue on with our weekly reading after that, and we'll officially be open for this week's cookbook, this week's sermon. And like I said, we're going to continue off with our banking series. And before the banking series, we had the currency series, went to currency, to currency fundamentals, the history of currency, monetary policies, and things like that. Before that, we touched on civics, and we had a economic series going all the way back to last year. I think at the end of last year, we ended off with, that was one of the things we ended off with, was our economic series. Great fundamental knowledge. If you guys want to catch that, you can either go back and listen to it on Clubhouse. Those recordings stop in December, or you can listen to the recordings and the replays from YouTube, either or. Whatever floats your boat. On YouTube, you have more of a meditative state and background music and the recording. And if you just want the raw vocals, you can go to Clubhouse. But with that, we're going to jump right into the divine constitution and bylaws. And as it states, Act 1, Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Moorish Temple of America has the power to make laws and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is holiday rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. 3. Love, true peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No members to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on the occasion that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim nationality, and we are teaching our people the nationality and their divine creed, that they may know they are a part and parcel of this said government. They are not Negroes, color folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, named Zabuwr, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwest and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faith. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from the prophet Noah through the guidance of his father God. Islam, y'all. Islam. So we're going to get into our weekly readings. We open up every week with chapter 25, 47, and 48. We read this continuously and repetitiously here every week on Holy Day. As I say, repetitively every week. Chapter 25 is the precursor for all actions, intents, and behaviors for all Moorish peoples. For all Moorish peoples. It is that guiding light for all principles that you come across in Moorish science or just in your dealings as Moorish people. And you find this mentioned throughout all the scriptures, especially when we went through some things in the banking series. It came up when we was talking about usury and interest and how you shouldn't charge your brother and sister usury and interest. But we're going to jump right into it with that. This is chapter 25 called A Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. And if you guys need a copy of El's Holy Quran, not El's Holy Quran, but Holy Quran Circle 7, there is a file in the chat that you can download from there. And if you guys don't have a copy and you want to read along, especially those YouTube, go to my bio on YouTube, the Telegram link. It'll take you to the chat, and you'll have the file available to you in the chat. So with that, chapter 25, as it reads, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother, giving you suck. Let the bond of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brothers in adversity, assist them. If thy sisters in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all, and your love to each other. So as I stated, this is the precursor for all actions, intents, and behaviors for all Moorish people. Moving love and unity is just that simple and plain. It might sound rhetorical to some people. Might sound generic to some people. But it's just that simple and plain. Especially in this day and time where everything is superficial and done by artificial means of thinking, right? You need to jump back to the basics. All right, so we're gonna with that we're gonna move on to chapter 47 and 48. Chapter 47 is called Egypt, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. And as it reads, the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the Holy Land in Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family was second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Maxim, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the father and the son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders who possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sojourned from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and habitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across Great Atlantis, even unto the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantic Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in the ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile westward across the Great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro black color race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. What the ancient forefathers were, you ought to do without doubt or contradiction. There's no one who was able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. I, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and awful day that is sure to come. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honor not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black and colored, was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent, because they honor not the principles of their mother and father and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. So this week, my takeaway is simply this, because we talked about what I'm about to go into last week. We touched on it just a bit, but everyone has felt the wrath of Allah and the backlash of going against the grain of your ancestors, your foremothers, and your forefathers. And the texture of what we're dealing with today, we have to understand that there's a total different texture of the form of slavery that is being produced and participating in today's time, in these modern days in time. There's a total different texture. Though, yes, every nation of people has tasted the wrath of Allah when it comes to that. But today, we have to remember there's a great distinction. And there's some point we're going to touch on if we can get to this week from Dr. Claude Anderson, expounding on those particular points. But, you know, as I mentioned last week, we have to really, really understand the difference between what is being prejudiced, some individual and their prejudice, and what racism actually means. Racism gets into group thinking, and this type of racism that we're dealing with, systematic. This is why it's called systematic racism. And that is what really sets this apart from old versions or more ancient version of slavery. Like I mentioned last week, there was tribes enslaving tribes, things of that nature. But what we have today, with people being enslaved just based on their skin color, this is or the pigmentation of the ethnic, it's total different texture of slavery. And some might say it's worse. Some might say it is more better. We had it better during the slave era of the 1800s, which is what Babylon had been enslaved to the Egyptians. Right? You can make your comparison. But nonetheless, history or our story tells the account of what happened on its own. And, whether you wanted to better Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, if you ask the people from the source, the horse's mouth, someone is always going to give respect to where respect is due. So, with that, we all should understand that what we're dealing with today is way more severe of punishment, even though we have better technology, better access to education, things like that, record keeping, banking structures, all of that. The mental slavery that our people are going through off the account of being enslaved or kidnapped and put in bondage, really, based on their skin. And it's not just something that is regional. This is something that became a worldwide systematic thing to do. All indigenous people have been basically classified as heathens, according to the papyrus we discussed last week, and we have went over many times here in the temple. But with that, we're going to jump into chapter 48, called the end of time and the fulfilling of prophecies. And as it states, the last prophet in these days is Zabuwr, who was prepared in due time by Allah to redeem man from their sinful ways, and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days, to warn and store up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner of Jesus, who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, and his name is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to the earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of man, that every nation shall must work under their own vine and fig tree, and return to their own and be one with their Father God Allah. The Moorish Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state, of the states, etc., that the world may know the truth, that among the descendants of Africa there's still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of man, under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We as a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nation of Europe, neither serve gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. We are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, as was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor our father and our mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earthland the Lord Allah had given thee. Come, all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and your birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your ancient forefathers Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We're trying to uplift all of humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. So with that, y'all, we are fully open. Happy holiday to you nobles. True peace. I hope y'all are enjoying y'all holiday. So we're gonna get into our banking series there, but I do want to touch on this one quick thing right here. as we close chapter 48 and bring some clarity to it. The prophets say, "Come and hear the truth about your nationality and your birthrights. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed that you will learn to love instead of hate. We're trying to live fallen humanity. Come and live with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophet." And what is clear in this message from the prophet is that we're not talking about Orthodox Islam. And we talk about this here, we reiterate this same point here all the time. We're not talking about Islam that goes back to 600 AD. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the ancient. Even though that time frame can be considered ancient, but we're reading scripture from Jesus. I mean, we're talking things that go back before even what Jesus was calling ancient and going back to antiquity. And this nationality that you have as a Moorish people. You're going to run into all type of slander, harassment, misinformation, misguidance on what that means by proclaiming your nationality. Or it's not symbol of America is not government, is not this, is not that. Then why would the prophet mention anything to do with politics and political status? Oh, Moorish Science of America is not teaching real Islam because Islam has nothing to do with statehood. If Islam had nothing to do with statehood, then why was the Qur'an only delivered to one tribe of people, called the Kurdish tribe? And there was a will and testament set up through Islam. A lot of people make these statements, especially coming out of the sectism, right, of Islam or Orthodox Islam, and never remember the point about the caliphate. The caliphate is passed down. It was passed down from Bilal to Prophet Muhammad, Mustafa Al-Amin, peace be upon him. And going back before that, whatever prophet held the shofar or the shoba and carried the caliphate. Today that carries over into what you call popes and things like that, and then now they have their papal authority, right? And so on and so on. But since we have moved into modern day times, there's no recollection of the church or the temple and the tabernacle, whatever you want to make reference to it as, being the city hall of your community or your society. This is one of the great things that going through this banking series has really pointed out. A lot of the lifestyle and structure of the civilization, society, the community, it was centered around the temple. Everything was centered around the temple. If you change the political status, which changes your jurisdictional means of living, and to have Democratic, Republican, and independent, some libertarian on mixed up, right? That changes your political status. They classify state today as a red state, a blue state, because they operate on the guise of democracy, or they operate on the guise of a Republican-based form of government. So when we're talking about claiming our nationality, which is a political status, and our political status is theocratic, then we're talking about forms of governmental policy, structures, and behavior. You look into the Qur'aan, it's talking about everything from inheritance, everything from how you run your government, everything from how you run your finances, your inheritance, your education. You got all these means of instructions. Even to today with us in the Moorish Ensemble of America, we're left with holy instructions. Everything from charity, knowing ourselves, not not being inconsistent, which is one of the most powerful ones, because consistency is everything. But you're gonna hear everything outside of the temple about all this craziness, and you better be blessed if you find a temple that's gonna give you fundamentals like we try to at least give you fundamental understanding. A lot of temples are locked in rhetoric that had nothing to do with the prophet was bringing. So a lot of people push out a lot of jargon that is supposed to be more science, and it's not even really more science. It's just jargon that one group and one branch of the Moorish Ensemble of America decides to utilize. With us, we're not here pushing jargon on you. We're here to push you to be a thinker. The prophet said, I want you to know the truth and the divine truth, not the latest conscious community conspiracy stuff and conspiracy news or theories and whatever that may come about. We branch number 24 of the Moorish Ensemble of America, we get into a particular portion of what the prophet was talking about when it comes to Moorish science. That particular science is the science of time wisdom. This is what the prophet, I want y'all to know the gospel. That's what the gospel is. That's what the gospel is. It's the hermeneutics. And what we called it in our ancient and divine time with the prophet, especially in the divine movement, knowing that the prophet was an Egyptian adept, you should know that we have something called nulogy. This week, I'm going to be uploading to YouTube a audio book called The Stolen Legacy. I talked about it last week. So instead of y'all having to Google it, y'all can just go to our channel and listen to the audio book. I couldn't post it last week because the file was too big. But to make some room, make some space. So now we should be able to get up there. But if you check out this audio book or the book itself, Jim James Stolen Legacy, you'll see that he talks about Nu and where they get the concept of the divine mind, the divine wisdom. Nu in ancient Egypt, Noon in Hebrew, the true light. Nar or Nur, really in Arabic, the true light. You have Nur, and you have a smokeless fire, the disagreeable fire, the jinns that they talk about that the jinns was made out of in the Quran, and then you have the true light of Allah, the true light, the lights that's mentioned in the Quran and the scriptures. So when we get into that specific, we're talking about that modern day form. Nulogy. We're here to give you basic understanding of nulogy and how to really think in a new logical mind, mental pattern. This is what really should be separating us from the others, especially as a people, because it is Moorish science got the understanding of nulogy from Moorish people. When you get into talking about the spear, they even came up with that word. They didn't have the word nous, which the Greek philosophers got from us ancient Egyptians. So the science of the divine mind that's based on our ancient ancestor Nu We've been had a depiction for the new spirit. You have Mother Newt. This is why we refer to our temples that work together with us as new unified temples, because we're paying reverence to the sky goddess Newt, who today in science is called the new spirit. This is another layer of the atmosphere. But you have to get into your divine legacy to understand these things. And like I said, we're not here to push any form of rhetoric on our people, but for our people to understand the knowledge and the wisdom that goes into this, and pushing it to where this becomes more of a professional thing. As I said here many times on record for the record, we push a lot of people away with that Negro, Black, and Colored conversation. All the people that's caught up in the Patriot movement and the sovereign citizen movement and all those things, we will reach a lot more of our people if we actually went into real, basic, fundamental principles and the scholastics of civics and keep it real simple. We gave a fundamental breakdown on the private side, the public side of governments and societies and communities, how contracting is done from those different sectors of things or sectors of matter, and where your religious principles and divine creed comes into effect and why it is powerful. We're not going into all the things that people get into. If we keep it simple and understood, the public beneficiary trust that the prophet had us set up through our living and how we live, and that's been given to us. The prophet said, I gave you what you need to save a nation, to save yourself. So it's laid right out there in front of us. We don't have to get caught up in all of the sovereign citizen rhetoric and all these other political rhetorics and things like that really are no benefit to us. We should be politically active, as the prophet mentioned in the literature as well. But we worried about being one-man islands on an island, one man king on an island. That ain't gonna get us nowhere. That ain't gonna get us with leaving a mark on anything that has to deal with economics and being industrial, creating our own markets, creating our own economies, townships and things like that the prophet talked about doing. It seems like we far long away from that. When you look at, what it means to be a Moor, you go on YouTube and you get the backlash of this and that. The last thing I came across was, Moors, these people, so-called Moorish Americans in America, think they conquered here over in America and this, that. He was trying to put the definition for what happened in Spain and make that analogous to us as Moorish Americans here in America, which, whatever floats the boat, right? But as we mentioned last week, Moors are considered anyone that is made reference to as a so-called Negro, Black, and Colored. Simple and plain. And you find Negro, Black, and Colored all over the planet from many different modern day nationalities. And they have a global nationality that brings them all together under a universal umbrella that is symbolic of their royalty and their nobility as a people, as indigenous peoples. Same way the title of heathen was placed upon indigenous peoples through the Papabur that has been apologized for and rescinded by Pope Francis just recently. But we argue over whether we call ourselves American Indians, whether we call ourselves Hebrew Israelites, and all these different terms. We all that more in a bag of chips. We all that more in a bag of chips. but understanding that this term and a Latin or Spanish dialect connects us all, that refers to us not in a dishonorable way, and connects us all together as a people, we will get much further. We better reach our people. We don't have to be arguing with our people at every showdown and every, every place we go, you know, about, well, you're not black and whatever someone decide to call, they call themselves Bernie, the purple rainbow. That is up to them socially. We shouldn't be arguing with them. We push so many people away with pointless arguments and pointless rhetoric that we miss the fact that we're talking about color of law. And that should be something explained simply and succinctly as possible. We're talking about the color of law. You don't want to be mixing the genres of things. The prophet was talking about the color of law and what Europeans deem under their jurisdiction of these terms and these words when you use them. The prophet even told you to get into your own ancient definition for those same terms and those same words. But we don't see us and the movement pushing that real heavy. So this is why I said we're not here to push rhetoric on people. We're not here to push certain ways of thinking on people, but do the knowledge, do the research for yourself. Don't believe me, go check it out, right? As the master teacher stated. So first thing first, like I said earlier, I want to give honors to the divine creator. I want to give honors to the prophet. I want to give honors to those that came before the prophet. I want to give honors to those that came after the prophet. I want to give honors to y'all that are here in participation tonight listening to me. I want to give honors to all things Moorish, all things indigenous. And with that, we're going to get into our banking series, because together we stand, divided we fall. We can get a lot more done. So the link to what we've been touching on already is in the chat. You might have to scroll up just a little bit. You should be able to see it under the history of banking. And I'll reshare the link for a third time, because I'm thinking we're close to closing this series out. We should be, y'all. We really went over a lot of great things that y'all should check out on YouTube when you get a chance, because there's definitely some goodies in there for y'all. And as I mentioned last week, this is not for us to be going down the crazy theorist lane. As I mentioned plenty of times, what they call theories, right, those quote unquote conspiracies, they not conspiracies anymore. A lot of those things have been proven to be true. What people call conspiracies today is the same things that have already been dealt with, looked into, proven to be true, and the more and more we move forward with that, we see conspiracy theories that come up with things about things that we have already disproven as an ancient people. We don't have to have the caveman conversation over again. I posed that to the body a couple months back, I think, about the whole how what people think the shape of the earth is, right? And those type of conversations are becoming what people consider conspiracies now, as we move forward down the timeline, versus what has already been proven to be a natural fact. We really got to get our people on this new logical thinking and really understand what divine nature is, the divine mind, and those natural principles. Because whew, as an idle mind does, is gonna do what an idle mind do, and it leads our people to get caught up in these type of movements and things like that, and it's only based on being rebellious, especially with the what shape the earth is, or what its geometrical shape is. A lot of those arguments right there are based on just rebellion against the so-called powers that be, and have no clue that it was them and their ancient indigenous people that gave a lot of the so-called powers that be the knowledge and reference points that they stand on, that they keep away from you. So in actuality, what's going on is you're being sucked into thinking the way the docile person thinks. And it's funny to see the flip, right? It's funny for someone who, for those of us that's been on our spiritual journey and our spiritual path for some time now, it's funny to see the transition as we move past the year 2012 and the things that were going on before 2012 and the knowledge that was available to us to really dive into. And, I'm one of those ones that was blessed to wake up before that last portal, right? We just went through another portal in 2023, for those that know about the 10-year portals opening since the Philadelphia experiment, things like that, right? Those universal vortexes that open up, I was blessed because to really grasp and see the knowledge that was out there and the texture it was being given, especially the way we conveyed it as an ancient people. Because as I said last week, the prophet said, go get a good European education, because that same good European education, as I mentioned last week, is the education that the Moors gave the world. We taught the world linguistics. We taught the world the trivium, the quadrivium, the liberal arts. That's your ancient knowledge. That is your ancient science. So when we say we get into the particular, we're getting into the science of science when it comes to Moorish science. And that is the science of divine wisdom. The Gospels. We're here to teach the hermeneutics. The hermeneutics is the interpretation of the divine word, which is given by, of course, none other than what people in Greece call Hermes. And we refer to as Tahuti. And Babylon, Nebo. And you had names all over the four corners of the earth referring to the messenger. So for us, especially us in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we should definitely understand that we are the Nebuah. We are the prophecy. We are the prophethood. We are the people of the prophecy. We are the people of the Katab. We are the people of the book. There's a lot of fundamental theological knowledge that needs to be given in the temple, but our people greatly lack it. And we insert all of these conscious community rhetorics and different rhetorics from different schools of thought, and not gain the wisdom and knowledge that comes from the simple and basic plain thing that the prophet wanted us to get to weave all this stuff together, which is the science of theology. And that science of theology comes out of philosophy. And the philosophy from the ancient Greeks come out of ancient Egypt, which is Nuology. And this is what we're teaching from when we get into this, this banking series and every other series that we had. We're teaching from that standpoint. And so today, our particular brass temple is here to build the things that we need and get the things going, so that way our people could be left with the example, because that's all we can do is lead the example. One of us in the divine and national movement has to be striving for building cities and towns, banking systems, education systems that is based on our academics and our curriculum. Things that we can come together with each portion of the divine movement can come up with their own names, their own terms, things that are marketable. Prophet said we got to be marketable. And that leads us to getting into this banking series. So where we left off last week is on building societies. As I mentioned last week, we have set up a building society ourselves from this particular branch temple number 24. And a building society is a financial institution owned by its members, such as a mutual fund, and it offers banking and other related financial services, especially savings and mortgage lending. So for us, and they're also similar to credit unions, or they could be structured as a credit union. So for us, this is something that we have done through, through our development. We have the World Credit Union. We got the Nibiru Reserve Banking System. We've issued Bitcoin smart contracts for all Moorish people in the movement. We kind of led the wave with our people getting into it. We got the documentations and the works behind it. We are on one of the oldest big crypto platforms there is, and still surviving and standing to this day. And we've done a lot of the things that people in the so-called secure party creditor, movement has tried to do. But we're not moving off the principles and knowledge and interpretations and verbiages of what people in the so-called SPC category of things do. We're moving on a professional standpoint. We understand the professionalism of capital markets, the professionalism of investing, the professionalism of actual, credit and banking. But when you get that and you adapt that one man on an island mentality, it leads you down the wrong path. It leads you down, a whole different lane. Now, as I say all the time, I'm gonna keep saying it, there's some trade secrets within that. But if you do not know how to extract the trade secrets from out of that knowledge that they spew, then you in for a slippery slope, a very slippery slope. And very few of them make it out of that without understanding the laws of consumers and the legality of things that set up, the legal formalities that set up for consumers, the things that you can do through administrative process or procedure. Really, it's not called a process. They keep using that word a lot. Process, gotta do this process. It's administrative procedures that everybody do on a regular. You get up, you check your mail or whatever it may be, you check your email and you respond. Simple thing. You go to court, you got a situation, it's about responding. Simple. Now, if you want to get into all the advanced terminology for legalese and the language, not every Moorish person is responsible for playing basketball. Not every Moorish person is going to be responsible for playing football. Not every Moorish person or any person in the planet from any particular tribe or anything like that is going to be responsible for creating all parts of the society. So we're going to need some Moorish lawyers, as we say all the time. We're going to need some Moorish bankers. But you got to be specialized in that art, in that skill set, in that trade. Now, I went to the school of SPC and secure party. That ain't going to work. That's not going to work. You need to be skilled in this. You need to be skilled in the philosophy of sales, in the business of sales, in the trade of sales. So with that, this is where your building societies come from. And building societies were established as financial institutions owned by their members as mutual organizations. So a mutual organization or a mutual society is an organization which is often but not always a company or a business based on the principles of mutuality and governed by private law. Are we not of the Moorish Ensemble of America? And the things that we set up to do as auxiliaries of the Moorish Ensemble of America, not guided by or governed by private law? So there's some differences to mutual society. Unlike most cooperatives, or what they call a true cooperative, the members usually do not contribute to the capital of the company by direct investment, but they do derive their rights to profits and votes through their customer or client-based relationship. And most of the time they refer to a mutual organization or a society as a mutual, like a mutual fund. And a mutual, as they call it, exists for the purpose of raising capital or raising funds from the membership or the customers. And then they use that to provide the common services that they have, and or even invested in other things such as a financial institution would. So the origins of a building society as an institution lie or come from the late 18th century Birmingham, which is a town which was undergoing rapid economic and physical expansion, driven by a multiplicity of small metalworking firms, whose many highly skilled and prosperous owners readily invested in property. So these were investors. So this is going to take for us as Moorish entrepreneurs and investors to come together, not secured, whatever, and who don't even know what the real definitions of these terms is coming from. This is why our mindset on these things have to change. This is why I said we're not here to give rhetoric. We're here to give the real knowledge behind these things, because this is the trap, the main trap specifically that our people fall in, and or don't know how to defend the nation and who we are as a people. We talked about it last week. You see it clear as day, and the Latin language more is referring to a so-called Negro, black, and colored. Simple and plain. And you got to stand on, like they say now, you got to stand on business. You got to stand on your nationality. It's called indigenous standing. You got to stand on your indigenous status as a indigenous so-called and royal at this point, as royalty, because this is who the Moors was looked at as royal, Negro, black, and colored. And all people across the world has Moorish blood in them, especially when the scientists is sitting there saying, all people come out of Africa. And we're not gonna get into the theories of that, but just keep it simple and plain. Hey, it is what it is. So you have indigenous, you have ancient royalty and inheritance that you can stand on. All right, so continuing, it says many of the early building societies were based in taverns or coffee houses, which had become the focus for a network of clubs and societies for cooperation and the exchange of ideas among Birmingham's highly active citizenry, as a part of the movement known as the Midlands Enlightenment. So this is going back to what happened after 1666, as we talked about, and how they came into this time of Renaissance. You had the Lunar Society of Birmingham. You had many different types of societies, and they was going through their enlightenment. And we all know that enlightenment came because of who? The Moorish people going into Spain. And even what happened before Spain, it was the influence of the Moorish people. So this is what I said last week. We got to understand where we are placed at and know how to point it out, but do it in a professional manner. This is what helps us be marketable, especially be marketable above the critiques, the pushback. So when we want to push back at a National Geographic or someone that's playing on a high plateau in whatever industry it is, you have a footing. because you have that same markability. You have that same industrial respect in your industry. Not these insults that we come across. A lot of them, I know they living in this and they living like that. We're gonna have to do a Moorish BET. This is how we living. I'm just saying, it's going some gonna have to switch up, some gonna have to change. And as we talked about before, this has to deal with our PR, our marketing, our markability. This is why the president and all these political people, they have a team of people on their campaign. They have a PR on their campaign, especially when it comes to how they're looked at in the eyes of society, in the eyes of their community, their markability, their marketability. Social media is about marketing. Social media is about marketing. This is how most people get their business ideas out there. This is how most people, especially in today's time, is raising capital. As we mentioned last couple of weeks, you got the guy, Mr. Beast from YouTube. He's more well known to the younger kids now than a Derrick Rose, or one of these one of these people that's playing basketball, or even a rapper. Now we probably, when back in our younger days, we was probably looking up Lil Wayne and this, that, and the third on YouTube. But now these kids are on there, and you got names and people like Mr. Beast, who has a bigger name, a bigger markability standpoint or status than your Denzel Washingtons and things like that we have in our time coming up. So, as we talk about here at the time with me and Brother Jonathan, the technology is there, the opportunity is there for a lot of us that took our spiritual journey, especially as Moorish people. We have come across, or we should have at least come across, the conscious community, the House of Consciousness, and all these big names in our communities and our indigenous communities that are on YouTube. But have we came together to create enfranchisement with it? So there's a lot, we got to unpack when it comes to that conversation. So continuing, it says the first building society to be established was Keatley's Building Society, founded by Richard Keatley, the landlord of the Golden Cross Inn, in 1775. So this is something that came about going all the way back to 1775. And like I say, y'all got to really do the research, and we have been doing that fundamental research. We know there has a possibility for there to have been building societies created before 1775, because we done the reading, we done the reciting of the simple reference points that are being given here. So obviously, just like it was mentioned, the joint bank was established by someone from a Eurocentric view. We know there has to be someone from the indigenous point of view who has established one of these structures, especially when they learn and giving you the acknowledgement in these reference points that this stuff comes from those indigenous people. It states members of Keatley's society paid a monthly subscription to a central pool of funds, which was used to finance the building of houses for members, which in turn acted as collateral to attract further funding to the society, enabling further construction. The first outside the English Midlands was established in Leeds in 1785. So they came together, put their funds together, took that money, took those funds, and invested in building houses for the members who paid their subscription. The red light or the bulb should be going off for y'all if we say we have structured this type of structure. We have it in the form of a smart contract, and people want to know, well, how do we do this? What he not giving the knowledge on what to do? And this, I'm not supposed to tell everything the Most High, put in my hand to work through it and develop for us. But if you pay attention and you go back and you follow the Noon project that we've been laying out for our people, they don't know what their divine inheritance is, and we've been doing it for years, man. We've been doing this thing for years, even before we got the official charter for the temple. For years, laying this blueprint out. But as we constantly saying here, slow progress is better than no progress. And I'd rather it be 2 or 3 people, right, Brother Jonathan? I'd rather it be 2 or 3 people than what we used to have, 20, 40 people in the room, and ain't nothing getting done. And they expecting one rich Pookie to get things done. We not doing that. We not doing that. You got your own currency. You got your own opportunity. We offer jobs here. We had plenty of jobs that we were offering then, but a lot of things weren't meant to come and be brought into full fruition, especially when we just starting out and we birthing out ideas left and right for things that need to get done. There's a lot of ideas that come out of this known project that are put on hold because the fact that these ideas take our people to develop them, to come together. Instead of, cherry pick the idea and then want to go do it on your own, but you don't know what you're doing. Instead of coming together and working as a divine and national movement, whatever branch temple you're a part of, and we get this thing done. But we're not trying to steal how to do license plates or cherry pick the idea of how to do license. Now we want to do our license plates, and we don't got the network, we don't got the industrial knowledge on how to do it, or go and cherry pick the ideal of doing passports, and we don't got the network, we don't got the ideal of what we're doing. We don't got the direction. This is why coming together and unity is more important. Like I said, chapter 25 is the precursor. But it must be based on the principles of mutualism. And this is why I say we established a mutual. We got the family office. We got the smart contracts going into the billions, but all that don't mean nothing if we can't come together and keep our family reunions going. None of that means nothing. You can't participate in your family reunion. Some of our families don't even have family reunions no more. This is the point of waking these things up. Like we said, this is not to get into those theories and all those crazy things. This is to really understand the principles and fundamentals for why you need to have personal investments, why you need to have personal savings, why you need to understand personally managing your money, why you need to understand the lane of entrepreneurship versus, you being one man on an island and no law and all these things don't apply to you. You just immune, you got impunity with no actual knowledge of impunity and the status and the experience that go behind it. You got people that's out here carrying the title of minister, but don't know what it means to be a minister. And you can come up with your own laws and customs, especially like the prophet said. You do what you do. But if you fold because you're not living by the laws that you set for yourself, can't nobody come and help you out. And filing no UCC1 is definitely not going to help you out. Especially if you don't know what to do with it. You don't know nothing about asset protection. And all you understand is SPC jargon and rhetoric. And you don't know the legalese behind asset protection. Basketball got the 3-point line, got the crossover, the behind the back. It got all these terms and words that's that caters to that particular genre of a thing or what it is. Same thing goes for law and the legal language. It's a art. It's an art. And someone could tell if you know how to use it. Especially someone that is a jurist or a magistrate or whatever position that they hold in that field. They can tell. So this next portion is called mutual savings bank, and it states mutual saving banks also emerged at that time as financial institutions chartered by government without capital stock and owned by their members who subscribed to common funds. The institution most frequently identified as the first modern savings bank was the Savings and Friendly Society, organized by Reverend Henry Duncan in 1810 in Ruthwell, Scotland. Reverend Duncan established the small bank in order to encourage his working class congregation to develop thrift, like a thrift store network. So pay attention. It's referencing a pastor, a reverend, right back to the source of the community, right back to the heart of the community, what we're talking about. And when it comes to the divine and national movement, we don't have these things that we can immediately reference. We got grand, what we've been calling grand sheik banging, grand sheiks banging against each other. You got different parts of the movement fighting against each other. This branch of the Moorish Temple of America don't think that branch is real. When the prophet said one prophet, one temple. One prophet, one temple. There's not enough proof from it, don't matter what grand sheik it is, to say that this lineage of being a grand sheik over the whole entire Moorish Temple of America belongs to you. It just don't exist. It just don't exist. Especially after all the infighting that took place after the prophet passed. Because you had many people stepping up to the plate, calling themselves the grand sheik this, the reincarnation of the prophet that. It got crazy. So for us, we try to keep it as fundamentally sound as possible. Not get into the arguments, not get into the scuffles. One temple, one prophet. Now, if you're doing things that the prophet said don't do, like selling nationality, selling our people their political status, and they don't understand that all it takes is to be here on Friday, come back on Sunday, show up on Sunday, hey, let the grand sheik of that temple know you want to come for newcomers class, so that grand sheik could be there. This all it takes. And then you do your proclamation on Friday and you put it on record. This is why we're putting our holy day services on record. But a lot of we gotta admit it. A lot of our Moorish adepts, they're not good at giving a marketable khutbah or sermon, especially one that's universal. We're not here to beef with the Hebrew Israelites. We're not here to poke fun at the people in the conscious community. Whatever they rhetoric and how they communicate with each other, I'm right there with you. I think I told this story before. I was in a Black Panther meeting one time, and they was going around, introducing themselves, and it came around to me. And, I was like, my name Dr. Lawiy. I'm a Moor. They said more power, because after everybody introduced themselves, they were saying Black Power, and then when it got to me, they was like more power. So I'm like, okay, this is how we got to learn to embrace each other, because what we have in our affirmations for this particular branch temple, that's just this particular branch temple. I can't tell any other branch temple and subordinate temple how to operate and function, or either grand temple how to function and operate. But I know what we have been divinely guided and given divine insight on. And I know our influence, especially as we've been developing the stuff, as long as we've been developing, our name is out there. These people be knowing who I am and who we are. Do they want to show up to do the real work? That's another question. Do they want to show up and get the work done? Brother Jonathan, you already know that's another question, because it's going to take not just physical growth and development, but it's going to take mental and spiritual. It's going to take mental and spiritual, especially when you're talking about creating and developing and building and learning how to be an investor. Some people don't got that patience. It's hard enough for some people to even understand savings, their own personal savings. And those for you that have the ambition to be a leader, you're gonna have to learn how to manage a farm. You're gonna have to learn how to manage a staff of people. You're gonna be able to manage finances, because that's what it takes to manage a staff of people. And if you're trying to do it without, coming off as Hollywood and selling our ancient history off as commercialism, there's a lane for us to do what we're doing, and we're doing it. Just being us. And as I've been saying, it's sad enough that we haven't came together already to create an economy around content creation already and funnel that money into development, economic development for ourselves, political development for ourselves, political campaigns for ourselves to clean up the image, put people on notice. And we have the public and lawful acknowledgement as a sovereign theocratic government body of people. And you got people out here, fighting against the top names and picking at our leaders the most, getting the attention. American Indians and Hebrew Israelites and this group and that group fighting back and forth. If we, like we say, stand on business, get a fundamental 2 + 2 = 4, it clear up a lot of things, and that's all we can do here. So this last part of this portion that we're reading states, another precursor to modern savings bank originated in Germany with Franz Hermann Schulz Delitzitz and Frederick Wilhelm Raffeson, who developed cooperative banking models that led on to the credit union movement. The traditional banks have viewed poor and rural communities as unbankable because of very small seasonal flows of cash and very limited human resources. In the history of credit unions, the concepts of cooperative banking spread throughout Northern Europe onto the US at the turn of the 20th century under a wide range of different names. That might have to be something we get into. We might have to do a quick tally on the history of credit unions too. We got to throw that in there. We went through the history of banking, went through the history of currency. We might have to go through the history of credit unions. But we definitely not gonna add that on, because we already had enough going, enough things that we went through the banking portion. We can follow up back with that, and we can let that be noted. We'll follow back up with that after we go through setting the record straight and getting into the Holy Tablets. And from what I'm looking at, it's short enough to really do it on the side of that. So we'll see. So this next portion is postal saving system. Postal saving system. So this is getting into where the postal banking and things like that come into effect. It states, to provide depositors who did not have access to banks a safe, convenient method to save money and to promote saving among the poor, the postal saving system was introduced in Great Britain in 1861. It was vigorously supported by William Ewart Gladstone, then Chancellor of the Exchequer, who saw it as a cheap way to finance the public debt. At the time, banks were mainly in the cities and largely catered to wealthy customers. Rural citizens and the poor had no choice but to keep their funds at home or on their person. The original post savings bank was limited to deposits of £30 a year with a maximum balance of £150. So they had very low margin. They had very low margin when it comes to how much you can deposit and what your max deposit was. It says interest was paid at the rate of 2 and 1.5% per year on whole pounds in the account. Similar institutions were created in a number of different countries in Europe, North America, and Japan. One example was in 1881, and the Dutch government created the Rijkssparen State Post Savings Bank, a postal savings system to encourage workers to start saving. 4 decades later, they added the post check and gyrodestin services, allowing working families to make payments via post offices in the Netherlands. So you was able to go to the post office and utilize that structure for banking. So this is where those postal banknotes that you see with the postage stamp, for those that really get into, to the history of currency, this is where that start to kind of come in. And when currency systems would kind of go left, this is where you would see people start to use the banks, the postage stamp, as a way to keep up with the denomination of the currency or the money or the value, even the value of the note itself. So this next portion we about to get into is the 20th century, and we got the 21st century after that. Let me see. I'm thinking if we should hold it off till next week, but it really not that. It's really not that long, y'all. So we definitely can get into it. But I don't, like I said, I don't want to keep us. Islam, somebody saying something? Okay, I thought y'all was chiming in. Yeah. All right, so we gonna see, because we already at 7:20, and I want to get us through our temple service here in a succinct manner. So I say we read this one and we close out next week with the 21st century, since it's not that long, because we still got to dive into Dr. Carl Anderson's Powernomics. So I want some time for that too as well. All right, so what I will do is I will go this first section though. And this first section of the 20th century is about the Great Depression. So it mentions the first decade of the 20th century saw the panic of 1907 in the US, which led to numerous runs on banks and became known as the bankers' panic. So this is what I was referring to when I was mentioning the postage stamps. The postage stamps was being used a lot during this time, right? And during these periods of these bank runs, and there became this chaotic state and panic on the valuation of the currency and things like that. So it states during the crash of 1929, and this is the year right after the Prophet Ali passed, right? And there's a lot of things go into the reason why this crash happening, and Noble Drew Ali, the Prophet, having some type of effect in this situation because of the mandate that the Prophet meant that has to deal with us as Moorish people. And this was solidified after he came back from Cuba and the things that took place there. And you really got to get into the in-depthness of that if you haven't already. And we talk about it here sporadically in our temple services, so you might want to go back as far as you can, and on Clubhouse, if you prefer, on YouTube. YouTube has the past 3 years, I think, and Clubhouse only has the past year because they deleted a lot of the replays. So on YouTube, you have access to the past 2 or 3 years, or even prior to that, on a couple, maybe almost a decade of sermons that have been done, and especially the ones before we got real consistent with our kupas and our sermons. So continuing, it says, during the crash 1929 preceding the Great Depression, margin requirements were only 10%. Brokerage firms, in other words, would lend $9 to every $1 an investor had deposited. When the market failed, brokers called in these loans, which could not be paid back. Banks began to fail as debitors defaulted on debt and depositors attempted to withdraw their deposits in mass by the masses, basically, triggering multiple bank runs. Government guarantees and Federal Reserve banking regulations to prevent such panics were ineffective or not used. Bank failures led to the loss of billions of dollars in assets. Outstanding debt became heavier because prices and incomes fell by 20 to 50%, but the debts remained at the same dollar amount. After the panic of 1929, during the first 10 months of 1930, 740 U.S. banks failed. By April 1933, around 7 billion in deposits had been frozen in failed banks or those left unlicensed after the March bank holiday. It states bank failed as desperate bankers called in loans that borrowers did not have time or money to repay. The future profits looking poor, capital investment, construction slowed and or completely ceased. In the face of bad loans and worsening future prospects, the surviving banks became even more conservative in their lending. Banks built up their capital reserves and made fewer loans, which intensified the inflationary pressures. A vicious cycle developed and the downward spiral accelerated. In all 9,000 banks failed during the 1930s. In response, many countries signified increased financial regulation. The U.S. established the Securities and Exchange Commission in 1903 and passed the Glass-Steagall Act, which separated investment banking and commercial banking. This was to avoid more risky investment banking activities from ever again causing commercial bank failure. So to really understand this from its true light, but beyond all the theories that are thrown out there, right? And the one main theory that does have some standing is that we switch from a gold-based system, right, to more of a credit focus in our banking structure. So that does stand throughout all of the craziness that you when we get this period in the 19th century and the things that is talked about. And of course, you got books like the Jekyll Island book, The Secrets of the Temple, as I mentioned these past couple of weeks, which I'm gonna put a link to that in the chat too as well. You know, you got those typical things that you come across, right? To know that everything ain't as it seems when you hear these economists on news and they say everything is all peachy smeechy, and you know, by doing our own mathematics, but knowing which particular mathematics matter, the key metrics that actually matter to measure the status of our banking system, right? And some of us get there. We know to look on the U.S. Treasury debt, right, the debt clock, things like that that's available to the public, and actually measure what is going on in the country. Now, when it comes to these principles that we want to get into, like reducing the debt and things like that, principal things can be done with economic formulas. But there are also industrial correspondences that needs to be done. Like more businesses need to be created, more jobs need to be created, right? More credit union type structures need to be created. But that takes for learning how to manage finances and other people's finances. Understand that it's going to take certain licenses to do certain things. If you're not going to go the route of using a license, you still have to understand the regulations, like the SEC coming into effect after 1933. A lot of our people want to jump into this, you know, SPC thing, and get all advanced, and they don't even understand the basic fundamentals, principles of the consumer laws that pertain to them as a consumer, the basics of finances and personal finances, wealth management, just even the basics of wealth management before they want to get into these crazy feats of, hey, I need to reduce the debt or put a claim on all the debt that is personally owed to me. But not understanding, when you're talking about public debt, the public debt that's owed to the public has to be accessed, utilized in a particular way, and especially politically, it has to be utilized in a political manner. This is why there's a lot of regulations on campaigning and political campaigns. If you're going to use the public's debt, the debt that is owed to the public, whether you're going to use it as some form of collateral or you're going to reduce it. Either or. Still talking about something not just that, that not just belongs to you or yourself, but that belongs to the entire public. And when we get into talking about nations and the claims that nations have, you got to be able to move as a nation of people to make that claim. And when we're moving, and without the movement, but we're moving with a disunity, miscommunication, non-communication, no unity, no political sequence, no political heads represent us nowhere. We arguing over, is this Grand Sheik the leader of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple, or that Grand Sheik is? No, Grand Sheik is the leader of all temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It's one prophet with temple. And if we understood that and we conveyed that to the message for us and all the people you come across that asking these questions, well, who's your army? What's your currency? Why the Moors don't do this? Why the Moors don't do that? You're the one with the question. This is your people that went through kidnapping bondage. Why you don't get to answer that question that you have yourself? This is what a business person does. This is what an entrepreneur-minded person does. They find the question and the things that are demand. Hey, we need this. Why don't we have such and such for such and such? Sounds like an opportunity to build and create and develop an industrial product or service. So when you go and push that out, then it's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother thing. But we're going to close out for this week, Coop. But like I said, I want to keep us here. I don't want to end it at a respectable time. So we're going to end the Cooper. Tonight's sermon, we're going to open up with our current event. I'm going to open up the floor. I want to do a quick room reset, space reset. Welcome to Branch Temple number 24 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are a global branch temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, where we teach our people their nationality and their divine creed that they may learn to love instead of hate. Come link yourself with a family of nations by joining us here every Friday on Telegram and or listening in from YouTube. We might post it a little late. It's going to be at between 10 to 11 before we can actually get the recording up for YouTube. But join us here every Friday and on Sunday, and link yourself with the family of nations. With that, we're going to move on to our current event segment. True Peace. Happy Holy. The floor is open. True Peace.
Peace. I recently saw a video with, I guess, Jordan Peterson talking to a panel about, I guess he was talking about the overreaching arms of the surveillance systems, and the methodology in which the CCP has been orchestrating the credit, and just like how technology is advancing, and the artificial systems are something that isn't really being communicated about the long-term cause and effects, due to those things. So I mean, he was bringing awareness to it, but I didn't really hear any types of directions or resolutions. But I do think that that is something that would be in tune with the work with the Moorish Science Temple, an awareness of the it's one thing to look at the crimes that have been done towards humanity, and then it's another thing to kind of see where we're at because of all the fixes, so to speak. And after a while, you fix so much that I think they were talking about these surveillance systems are able to see when you move your eyes, and potentially prove you to be guilty before you've ever really done anything. And like I think Jordan Peterson is like a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whatever, and he's like pretty knowledgeable on the terminologies of the dangers of those types of mechanisms. I think America has rules about you're not guilty until proven, or you're innocent until proven guilty type thing, versus back in the day people being thrown into jail and being guilty before
Right.
any type of evidence. I mean, we've in many ways we're in the best of times, depending on where you're at, compared to historically. I was just watching this video about galley slaves and people who used to get those boats to move before we had the propeller systems and the diesel engines, and now moving towards the, I guess, lithium based, silent running, cleaner energy based, generator ran engines. And even that I can see being updated with hemp and the advances of what hemp could bring to that field. But we're not there yet, and like you said, there's definitely a distortion when it comes to a movement and bringing people together, and like that's like on a shallow level. Like I don't know what the intent or goal is with the temple here, knowing that not everyone would want to be a minister, not everyone would want to be a lawyer. A lot of these things were framed out for people to follow different paths so that you could have a multitude of different types of people operating different structures within the workforce. And I just know that with drone systems, I mean, and how we talked about last week with the people praising or looking up to AI or looking at it as like some form of god or deity. The most important thing is taking small steps in the right direction, and so that's kind of where I'm looking at proceeding forwards, and knowing that communication and having the ability to communicate where I'm able to say something and not instantly get a rebuttal back in an argumentative state, because the individual who's hearing me may be have some type of insecurities or whatever it is, and just wants to argue to be able to push it off and not have to deal with it. And that's not the right course of action. And I'm wondering if that's why it's been a little bit crickets around here, because it can get a little bit complicated. And how is it that being able to simplify things for the average layman to start getting involved, and then to be able to grow into something greater if they choose to, or to feel at peace where they can not necessarily have to, go to extremes in their learnings. Some I don't know. I think that's really just important to comprehend. I'm still trying to figure it out for myself here, with the technologies.
Point though, Islam, I don't mean to cut you off, but you make a great point. Because if you're not talking about drama and gossip and things that people use to distract themselves with, you find a very few people, or a crowdless group of people that want to get in on that conversation. They want to well, hey, what's the solutions? What's the resolutions? What can I predict? Where can I contribute and what can I participate in? When it comes to what I'm good at, or have knowledge and a skill set, or even my life goals. What is it that you have available that matches my life goals? Right? Those things is that's what creates this lack of participation overall, because it requires a seriousness. It requires us not to be fighting and arguing with each other and things like that, going back and forth, right? So you definitely have that, and I really appreciate you for making that point, because that's the thing. And as I stated in the sermon, if we had it to where we understood some of the rhetoric is pushing our people away and not really necessarily needed, right? We'd be able to reach a lot more people, especially the people that we need to have in the divine and national movement. So, I definitely appreciate you for waking that up, because it's usually some type of personal issues that really causes these spats, lack of decorum, and really communicating in that manner, so where we can really get things done purposely. And a lot of it don't necessarily have to be, well, we fixing something that's broken or things like that. But most of the things that we're talking about, at the basis of it, at least has to do with self growth and having the things that you need for yourself as an individual, right? As an individual, down to individual family or community. So, I definitely appreciate you for making that point, because it not just resonates with me, but it is what it is. It's just the truth. So. If you have a link on the Jordan Peterson conversation, right, or the dialogue, if you can, go ahead and share it with me. I don't know if you got a link on that.
Yeah, dude, I saved it to my blog. That's the main reason why I be blogging, is so I don't lose track of a lot of the information that can kind of get lost on the websites themselves. Like, I know YouTube has like a button that you can save videos, but after a while that gets really overloaded, and sometimes I can be able to do searches on my blog directly and be able to find what I'm looking for based on a couple keywords, versus trying to do that on YouTube and it's lost by that point because it's 100 other videos with the same title.
Can you hear me? Islam, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I was having the audio little audio issue. But nah, yeah, I definitely feel you on that. We're gonna jump right into our next segment with the Holy Quran Circle 7 because we really don't have that many updates. Same thing we said last week, pretty much. Is in standing this week. We're working on the website. We got the monetization going with YouTube. So with that, we're gonna jump into our next segment for this week with our reading of El's Holy Quran. We're gonna start out with chapter 41. So let's go ahead and do that. True Peace, give me a second. All right, y'all. So we're gonna jump right into El's Holy Quran. Just trying to pull it up for us. All right, let me see if it pulls up. Trying to make sure I just do it the way I've been doing it because all right, so let's get into our reading. Yeah, I got our copy of the Powernomics, so we definitely gonna be reading that as we close out this banking series. And if it comes up, if it do come up, we may, like I say, add the history of the credit union, the history of the credit unions in there too as well. I have to get into that too. I'm floating between whether we gonna bring it up after we do our next two series or probably in between. Troopers, can you hear me? Long.
Peace. Boy.
I'll switch back and forth Wi-Fi connection. All right, here we go. Oh, okay, that's the one pull up. I see now. All right, so we're gonna jump into chapter 41 called Yasin, Ya-O-Sin, meaning secret. Gonna read chapter 41. If we read it, y'all, please be patient with me. We transition from Clubhouse to Telegram and the holiday break. Though we are in a new holiday, which is spring break, right, for most people. But we're gonna jump into chapter 41. We're gonna jump into chapter 41, which is called Yasin, which means secret, Yasin, secret. And the original order is 41, and they changed it in mistranslation to 36. So as y'all know, we begin our prayers and thinking by using the name of the source, Allah the Rahman, who is the most merciful. And the Tasfir, it's secret. The Quran is wise. Ahmad is the Mursaleen. The Quran is sent to warn a nation. the Elohim will make those other than Abraham's seeds necks chain, as if they are oxen with chains reaching up to their chins. The Elohim made before them a sod, and behind them two. The Elohim gives life to the dead. So it reads, Ayat 1 states, O secret, and Al-Hakim, the wise, Qur'an, surely you, Muhammad, who is also known as Muhammad of Al-Mursalim, the ones who are sent on a narrow path, the ones who stand up straight. It is Tanzil sent down from Al-Aziz, the mighty, Al-Rahim, the most merciful, to warn a command, kindred, his own kindred, as Abahum, the fathers were not warned, who was not of Abraham's seed, so they were neglected. Indeed, the saying on many of them, pale desert Arabs, the multitude is a fact beyond doubt, so they don't, Yumanun, have any faith. Should we not he, Elohim Anunnaki, have made chains for their necks, will have to be led to the facts like an oxen, so that is right up to their chins, so that they, those not of Abraham's seed, have to keep their head up faith. And we, Elohim Anunnaki, have to set before their hands a barrier, a sod, and behind them a barrier, and we overcovered them so that they do not see. And it is alike to them if you warn them, do not warn them, for they will not have faith. Surely you can warn him who follows Al-Dhikr, the remembrance, dreads Al-Rahman, the yielder, by way of Al-Gab, the unseen. So you ought to bear to him the good news of forgiveness and a generous reward. Surely we not he, give life to the dead, and we not to write down which they have sent before them, and even their footprints which leave behind them, and everything we not he, have confined into a manifesting Imam, Al-Mahdi, one who was put up front, and strike forth from them the likeness of a companion of a village, when our Musalim, one sent, came unto it. So this next tafsir states, or commentary states, Elohim sent two Rasul from them and strengthened them with a third one. The Inosites said they are nothing but mortal in skin. The Rasul foretell evil and pain for them. A man from the farthest end of the Medina warns them to follow the Rasul. He asks them, should he take Allah besides Allah? So the next ayah read from ayah 41, verse 41 states, when he sent unto them two of our Rasul, one sent, and Jain Anunnaki, Elohim Anunnaki, Azar or Azil, so they lied on them both. Then we strengthened the two with a talit, third one, Adaya, from us, not me. And they said to the Inosites, surely we are one sent to you all. We are the Elohim Anunnaki, angelic beings. They said, are you all but mortal like us? Nor has the Rahman, who is the yielder, sent down anything. You all are only lying. They said, Rabbana, our sustainer, know that we are surely one sent unto you, and on us is nothing to do except the clear promulgation of the facts. They said, surely we Tatayana foretell ill, Bikum, by you all, if you do not desist. We will, Da Najar Juma Nakum, verily stone you all, and an aching pain from us shall afflict you. They said, your feeling of ill is yourselves, when you are reminded. In fact, you are an exceedingly transgressing kindred. And a Rajlun, mortal man, came running from the forest part of the Medina city, and said, O my kindred, you ought to follow the one sent. You ought to follow those who do not ask you for any reward, and they are led to calmness. And it is not for me, slave, he not we, who created me, and you are all to return unto him. Should I take from beside Allah's sources if the Rahman desires harm for me? Their intercession can't avail anything for me, nor can it save me. So this next section of Tasfir commentary states, if he must take other sources, he will be clearly astray. He is going to enter Al Jannat. The Elohim didn't send any more ones sent after him. They were struck dead. It will be forth in the Anunnaki's possession. And the next ayah read, starting at 24, verse 24, surely I, if I did, very, was clearly astray into error. Surely I have faith in your wrath, sustainer. So listen to me. It was said, you are to enter the Jannat garden. He said, only if my kindred only knew of that which he, my Rab, has forgiven me, and he has made me of the Mukra'im, generous ones. And we not I, Elohim, did not send down on his calm kindred from after him any armies from the skies, Anunnakis from other planets beyond the sun. And we were not Muzalim, one sent down, some are born here. Surely there was one Sehat, loud cry, so as if they were struck dead. Oh, grief on the slaves that which is to come to them from the Rasul, one sent, except they were ridiculing him. Didn't they see how we, Elohim Anani, have destroyed Al-Qarum, the generations from before them? Sure, they will not return unto them. And if all will be gathered together, they are brought forth in our, not my possession. All right, Islam. Trying to see how long this chapter is. I'll read one more section and then we can stop there and we can go in from there, because from what I'm already seeing, as we've been touching on these past couple of weeks, it literally is reiterating the simple fact of the Quran, with all the things that can be pointed out, all the things that were adopted by the Quran, adopted by the writings from Muhammad, from whatever background, whether it's Christism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, wherever, and placed into the Quran. The key thing still stands, right? Which is the fact that the prophet was referring to the ones that came before him, the wise ones, the people that was giving this information, and whatever faction, whatever community and beliefs that they had in particular, they will still get communication to them from the divine. And so this is the thing that really sticks out with the original writings of the Prophet Muhammad. And the thing that really matters the most is that these teachings are based on divine inspiration from Muhammad's heart, truly. And also the things that we know that were happening during the time of Prophet Muhammad that pushed the prophet to actually be the prophet during that time. We know there's some things that go into that, some historical facts and historical acknowledgments of things that happen that goes into that, right? But the other core part of this that really Muhammad is the divine inspiration, regardless of the other political influences and things like that came about to push the Prophet Muhammad into being the prophet for Islam, right? Because as we've stated, Islam technically had been around before the Prophet Muhammad, even before the political conspiracies that pushed for Orthodox Islam to come about. Islam, as we understand, being in submission to the divine creator, being in submission to the source, that concept is not a new concept, right? This is why the prophet talks about the ancient and divine creed, which has nothing to do with the orthodox understanding of modern day Sunnism, Shiism, etc. Right? So this is why it's real important to make these distinctions when you're talking to people and communicating with people about what we mean by Islamicism, right? Not necessarily the orthodox understanding of the Shiites or the Sunnis and things like that, because there's a lot of historical documentation that goes into it. Just as well as if you're getting into the history of Christianity, there's a lot of historical things dealing with Constantine, dealing with the Nicene Council. There's many things that you would have to get into that really bring about the formation of Christendom, right? So this is something that's important. So we're gonna close out with this next section. We're gonna close out here, and then we'll finish this chapter next week as we close out on our banking series. So this next set of tasfir or commentary states, life given to the dead Ard by the Elohim, Ard, which means the planet Earth. They made in it just palms and grapes and sources of water. Glory be to He who created the mates. Elohim removed daylight as a sign. From the shadow hour, the sun has an appointed term, and Qamar has phases. It is not possible for the sun and the moon to be seen together. The offspring will be carried in the craft. Elohim can drown them if He pleases. They turn away from the signs of their wrath. They don't want to share willingly of that which the source has provided them. So starting from ayah 33, it states, and a sign for them, the dead planet Qui, also called Tiad or Ar, we not heed Anunnaki Elohim, revive it, remove the black dust cloud, and we not I brought forth from it Haban, seed, so from they can eat. And we not I Anunnaki Elohim Ashnan made it net gardens from Nakalim palms and Anabin grapes, and we Elohim Anunnaki gut forth in it from sources of water spring, for that they eat from its fruit which their hands did not make, so they will not be grateful. Glory be to He, Yahweh Enki, named Nunimu, who created Al Azwash, the mates, Zakar and the cable, for all of them, of that which Al Ar, the planet Earth, Qui, Tiamat, brings forth, and from that they themselves don't know. A sign for them is that we, Elohim Anunnaki, remove the daylight and the shadow hour period, and they are Mudhilamim. That was tough. Hilamun, one's left in error. Black dust cloud blocking the sun. That's referring to the black cloud blocking the sun. Continue from ayat 38, it states, and the Sham's sun has had an appointed term, which is determined by Al-Aziz, the mighty, which is referring to the 365-day orbit. And Qamar, moon, we determine for its phases until it becomes as an old dry stalk bent like a crescent with 29 and a half days. It is not possible for the sun and the moon to catch up with each other and be seen together, nor the lal, shadow hour period, to precede al-nahar, the day, and each is in its own orbit, in his glorious sphere. You can't have a solar and lunar eclipse. And a sign for them is that we not he, Elohim Anunnaki, held Duriyatahum, their offspring in the loaded fork, craft. And we not he, Elohim Anunnaki, Kalakn, created for them from its likeness other crafts, that which they will ride. And surely we not he, Elohim Anunnaki, will drown them if we please. So there will be screaming for them, and they will not be saved, except Ramatan, yielding mercy from us, not my, and a temporary provision from a time. And when it was said to them, tremble and fear that which is between your hands, that which is in back of you, perhaps for you, you will be tar hamum, shown a yielding mercy. And a sign didn't come to them from the signs of the Arab who was sustainer, except they were ones who have turned away from it. And when it was said to them, you share willingly from that which the source, Allah, has guided you, to conceal that what they know to be facts, said to those who are faithful, we only feed whom Allah pleases to feed. Surely you all are clearly straying into error. And they say, when is this promise? Surely if you were Zodokites, Sadakim, truthful, they don't look except a single loud cry which overtook them and are disputing. So they will not be able to make a recommendation, and they will not be returned to Allah, their family. So we're going to stop right there, and we're going to continue on next week with Ayat 51, chapter 51, Surah 41, Ayat 51, verse 51. We're going to continue on from next week. But, as I stated prior, the main thing that sticks out here on this particular reading is the fact that these ancient stories and their interpretations, because when we're talking about Mohammedanism, we're still talking about Judaism. Prophet Muhammad linked on the knowledge and teachings of Judaism, whether that been principles that came out of Christism, right? Whether it's principles of Zoroastrianism or other things that mixed into that, all of that still go back to Judaism and the knowledge and the wisdom that came out of Judaism, the prophecies that came out of Judaism, the stories, the records, the histories. All of that circles around Judea. So what you have is basically the same continuation of stories, histories, precepts, knowledges. So for insertion of the Anunnaki, the Elohim, the Elohi, the Alalu, this is the same body of people. So you have to push past the spats of, well, this ain't what the prophet did. Whether you seen it that way, because you're not looking from the eyes of the light and the ancient stories he's making reference to. It's not nobody else's fault but your own. And this is what we truly mean from the temple when the prophet says he wants you to know the truth and the divine truth. The prophet went to Egypt and studied. He went and got into the ancient science, the ancient and mystic order. The order just don't stop at understanding basic Freemasonry and basic tenets of Rosicrucianism or whatever fraternal order and whatever they tile that order around. But mainly the philosophical views and histories go way past the Bible. Way past the Bible. This is why you have those mystical orders that go all the way back to ancient Babylon. And you won't understand the mysticism and the narratives that's cloaked around these things if you don't go back and do your own research study. Some people don't make past studying the Bible. And then you got those people that feel, well, you'll never be done studying the Bible. You might have to say that for yourself, because some of us have read the Bible 3 or 4 times already in one lifetime. yeah, we may have to go back to that period of time. We never, you know, we may never have to stop coming back to that marker of time. That it most definitely it has its reference points that are still coming from those ancient periods of time. Like the Bible even mentioned, and that day giants were on the earth, and that day twins were born to parents. That was it was more of a thing. That was more of a thing to have twins than it is to have one child. So genetics was different. Things were different. And when you go back and look up those ancient Babylon stories, ancient stories from Chaldea, these are the narratives that you find. These are the stories, the topics. Go get into the Egyptian mysteries. This is the things that you find. The deities had brothers and sisters. They came out as brothers and sisters of different polarities. So with that, we're gonna close it out and get into our holy instructions for tonight. Like I said, I don't want to keep us here all night, Islam, and we're gonna bring it on home with that. So let's get into our holy instructions. Hmm? All right, I'm trying to pull up the holy instructions for us, y'all. All right, we might not be able to do that. I need to see what's going on here with the school. Sure what the glitch is about. So, all right, we might not be able to go through our our holy instructions this week. Nonetheless, we're going to close it out with our mandatory literature from the prophet. But I will state that if you come here every week and you really just sit and stick around as we really go over these fundamentals, you will understand the true purpose of the divine and national movement from the Prophet Zabuwr and the things he set out for us to accomplish as a people, and be able to see and sift through all the rhetoric and the things like that that have been put out to keep our people from really coming together. And it's no one's fault that everyone across the globe uses English as a language. And that language derives from a Latin base. So when we use the Latin base of what it means to be looked at as somebody honorable as far as their ethnicity and their nationality, and we decide to call ourselves that term and utilize that term for legal means and lawful means, this has nothing to do with us kumbayaing together. This has something to do with us acknowledging the same thing that we can acknowledge now, that globally, a lot of people communicate in the English language. And really, it's just that simple. So we have our mandatory Holy Day Temple service every Friday, every Sunday. And to join the Moorish Club of America and proclaim your temple nationality, to proclaim your nationality, is just as simple as showing up here on Friday and claiming your nationality. It's just that simple. So with that, we're going to close out with the mandatory literature from the prophet and get our last contributions, and we're going to take it on home. All right, the prophet wants us to go over this message and warning in every temple meeting and their temple service. This is a warning from the prophet to all Muslims and peacemakers. The prophet said, "Hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work and their homes or on the streets. We're for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your car to Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, true peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Zabuwr, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem people from their sinful ways. True peace, Zabuwr. All right, y'all. So we're going to go over this last warning from the prophet. That's to be read in every temple meeting and temple service. Islam. The prophet said, "I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of outside of the nation that claimed that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation, as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me, so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. That's why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can set aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world would not recognize the movement without me, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Noble Jawali. It takes finance to build a nation. So this is why we going through our banking series and things that we're talking about, and it's very pertinent in our dialogue. So with that, we're gonna close out, and I want to check real quick, Brother Jonathan, you got any last contribution before we close out? If not, we go straight to our prayer. We call it a night.
I'm just looking at my own situation is similar to what the prophet said there. I'm running off of my father helping me out with the lights and the Wi-Fi. But if it wasn't for him helping me with that, I wouldn't be here right now. So I just want to give thanks to my father on that front, and at the same time he ain't really too happy with my situation. And I know that I've been getting into the whole smart contracts, and I know that you said there's some emails, and I think this is the sprint, to get something solidified here, because there's definitely change in the air, and so whether that's good or bad, I don't think that's something that is something to get too far into judgment on. It's like, I do know that there's a lot of biological tampering with things. You talk about how there were giants back in the day, and mothers having twins. Well, now these mothers are taking these types of whatever injections or drugs to have multiple babies. Next thing you know, they got eight children in their stomach that are about to pop out. And that's not necessarily by nature. There was tampering done, whether it's pre-seed or whatnot. So, and that'll bring a whole new level of recourse into the judicial system on how do you judge things like that. Is that right or not? It seems like there's a lot of stuff going on because of profits for like Botox injections and different chemical methodologies, and at the same time I've been really quiet in the background because I haven't wanted to tamper with people's monies, people's business. It's like I'd rather let find that walk the line type deal and get it right, and not like I speak English, but at the same time I know that I have a cell phone and I have the ability to use Google Lens and go to different countries now and be able to read text or to communicate into the phone, and then it spits out in the language that I'm at, and vice versa. And so the ability to break through barriers that used to be there 20, 30 years ago are going away. And at the same time, the power went out for me, because there was a freak storm that went through, and I know how sensitive our system is still. It's like, I had to put a lot of faith that, that my power is going to come back on, or, like the Wi-Fi was going to pop back on today, so I could be here today. So, and that takes workers, that takes the people who are whatever their belief systems are. It's like, I'm not here to judge people as being negative or whatever based on whatever belief systems that they have. It's like, I've been really big on being open-minded, but knowing that there's big changes happening. And yeah, this is it. The time is now. Peace. Thank you.
I appreciate that contribution. Most definitely, we got a world around us, and you got to learn to be one with self in that. And that's a part of the journey. That's what the journey is about. It's about learning self, know thyself, and you can reflect on those instructions from the prophet. And hey, you got to use the tool to lose the tool, Brother Jonathan. That's what you got at your hand, your opportunity. You don't give a man fish, you teach him how to fish. So that's what we're doing here. We're giving you tools to where you can at least take care of yourself and have a tool and a skill set that you learn in the background, because sales is important. And other skill sets, marketing, things like that. Those things are important, and that's things that can be done. Plenty of things on YouTube that you can learn, and most definitely one of those things is how to make money on the side with the gig economy that we're in today. There's a lot of things that can be done from that standpoint, and or content creation. Focus and buckle down on one thing and put your focus there and stay consistent at it, and watch the growth. So with that, y'all know how we do. All rise facing the east, 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up, feet at a 45-degree angle. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. With that, y'all, we're going to call it a night. Islam. And yeah, most definitely stay focused, bro. You got the tools that you need. Like you say, the faith. And, it's better to,
Yep.
it's better to man how to fish than, than just give them some fish. And that's the tools you got in your hand. But like I said, also you got more tools. You got YouTube, you got access to the world, like you just mentioned, and
Right.
communication rules. And
I ain't complaining. I definitely would like to make sure that I can solidify something, but knowing that I can do it and help others too, and know that they're on a path to being able to solidify it. Because I think that's why it's been a little bit kind of, crickets, is if everyone's going in a bunch of different directions, and not comprehending that one prophet, one temple, like comprehending. I think it's just like, maybe if I can help express that as my first ministerial works, that'll maybe help align things, because it really shouldn't be this complicated. But yeah, peace.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. The movement needs those type of contributions. And from what I've seen, you great. You can, and you do have the ability to create good content. So I think that should be one thing you buckle up on, and push it to the limit, right? And with the other tools that we got, like the smart contracts, sales is a part of that. You don't have to be the best salesman, but at least you have that tool to work with. And we have the marketing skills that are being developed too as well, whether you utilize that for giving service to somebody else, or just building up your income and multi streams of income, either or. But you still got the tool, right? So with that, y'all, we're gonna call it a night. Hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Friday with y'all family. True peace. Wadu.